Ms. Chaudhry?
Commissioner, good morning. Mr. Mendocino, good morning. For the record, my name is Sujit Chaudhry. I'm counsel to Jenny Kwan, one of your colleagues. And so I want to change tack a bit, and I won't ask you about the CSIS warrant process. I want to ask you instead about the NSICOP report and the allegations made out therein. And as you know, one of the issues on the agenda of this commission is what process there might be to address some of those allegations. And there's been testimony about that. And so let me just ask for clarification. Have you read the NSICOP report?
Not front to back, but certainly I have read the thrust of it and have seen the key findings that were made by the NSICOP report. Yes.
Good. Okay. Thank you. And so, my client, MP Kwan, gave evidence on this issue before the commission, and we gave notice to the Attorney General that we might ask you about some of the points she made. Were you given a chance to look at that?
I was, and let me just say I very much sympathize with Ms. Kwan. I've worked very collaboratively with her, and I saw her evidence that as a result of some of the findings which have become very much the subject of intense public debate has led her to being labeled a traitor.
Ms. Chaudhry, I don't like to intervene in a cross-examination, but I would like to get one detail from the witness. Have you read the classified or the unclassified version of the NSICOP report?
Just the public version. I have not been given access to the classified version. You may have just taken one of the questions away from counsel.
No, I wasn't. That hadn't even occurred to me, but I'm glad the commissioner asked for clarification.
Okay.
So you can go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Yes. So I have not seen the classified version.
Okay, good. And so just coming back to MP Kwan's experience and testimony, so if I could, and with leave of the commissioner, if we could put up MP Kwan's witness statement for stage 2, it's WIT 78.
Yes, you can go.
Good, thank you. And and if we could please, when we get it up, if we could go to PDF page 3. And it's just the portion of her evidence, Mr. Mendocino, I'd like to ask you about in relation to the NSICOP report and some ideas she shared. Yeah. It's page 3 of the PDF. Great, thank you. Okay, so let's start there. So Mr. Mendocino, you spoke this morning in your evidence about anti-Asian racism. And so here, just for the record, I'd like to take you to paragraph 7, where MP Kwan's evidence is that the NSICOP report is cast a cloud of suspicion on parliamentarians, but especially lawmakers of Chinese and Indian heritage. And she has personally been the subject of an attack or a verbal abuse that she links to that. And so you agree that that's concerning.
I'm profoundly concerned about that, and specifically as it relates to a colleague with whom I have worked very constructively with over the course of my time as a member of parliament. Let me just say, if I can as well, that having read the public version of the NSICOP report, I would say, in spite of the best efforts of NSICOP, the Committee of Parliamentarians, that they have gone further than what CSIS or the National Security and Intelligence Advisor have gone when it comes to findings. And from where I sit, that this is an important reminder, one, about the importance of the weight that we put on the advice that we get from the unelected, nonpartisan, neutral, professional public servants. And second, that the reason for that deference has very much to do with the expertise that they have around the evolving nature of intelligence. So I wanted to take a moment to really drive this point home, because I do empathize with Ms. Kwan's concerns around being labeled a traitor.
and you anticipated the next series of questions. So I was going to put to you, but I think you're aware of the evidence that CSIS gave here, that Maître Drouin gave here, raising questions, possible points of disagreement regarding the facts or the interpretation of those facts that the NSICOP report put to it. And so my question then is this, that MP Kwan, prior to that testimony being offered, basically said there's a need to clear the air. There's some need of a process. And I would put to you that in the face of precisely the points you've raised about the questions that were raised by CSIS and Maître Drouin under oath here, that there's even greater need to clear the air regarding the allegations in the NSICOP report. Would you not agree?
I agree, and I would add that I am very worried that the entire conversation around foreign interference in parliamentarians is being transformed into a kangaroo court, with very little regard for the process of understanding how we assess intelligence, especially given its rapidly evolving nature. It is not as though when an official authors and hands over an intelligence report, that report becomes the final word. And so I think it is extremely important that we heed the opinion and the evidence that has been given to this commission from Ms. Drouin, from CSIS, around the fact that, in their opinion, this NSICOP report has gone further than where they are at in the assessment of the intelligence universe as it exists today.
So in the time remaining to me, I'd like to talk about how we can get out of being in what you call a kangaroo court of public opinion into some type of a process, and to give you, and if we could keep that witness statement up, please, sorry. Put to you some ideas that MP Kwan has offered, and I want to get your reactions to them. So you're a lawyer, of course, as
I am.
we both know, and so as you know, that Parliament has certain privileges, and one of those privileges is to assess the conduct of members according to a standard that might set out, and then to determine the consequences that might follow from determining a member has breached a standard of conduct. Everything from a reprimand or a censure or a suspension up to expulsion. You know that Parliament has that power.
Yes.
And so at paragraphs 8 through 10 of this witness summary, this summarizes MP Kwan's evidence regarding one type of a process that might be lodged in Parliament that wouldn't be a kangaroo court, to clear the air. And just to kind of summarize for you, to get your reactions, her evidence is that there should be a process with sort of 5 key features. The first is that the allegation should be reviewed by PROC, RPRD, or a combined committee. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Secondly, that there should be an in-camera review of the allegations. Third, that there should be procedural fairness for parliamentarians who face such allegations. The fourth is that the process should be designed around national security considerations, including perhaps the use of security-cleared counsel, and I would add security clearance for parliamentarians on these committees. And then finally, at the end of this, there should be an output of some kind that should be a report to Parliament, and then Parliament can decide to take steps. So those are the core features of what she's put out. And so what I'd like to engage you on are a couple of questions coming out of that. The first is, isn't it right that there needs to be some type of a standing process, not just a process that's ad hoc, created in response to this recent round of allegations, because foreign interference isn't going away, to deal with the problem of allegations leveled at parliamentarians? And isn't it right that that process presumptively be lodged in Parliament itself?
I am very sympathetic to the points that you raise around accountability and foreign interference and the conduct of parliamentarians. That having been said, I think we have to give very careful consideration about what the appropriate forum is to adjudicate. In other words, what is the mandate of the proposal that is being put forward by you on behalf of Ms. Kwan? My concern, if I can, is that Parliament is, in its very essence, a partisan atmosphere.
Yes.
And we have spent a good part of my testimony talking about trying to take the partisanship out of this exercise, because regardless of whatever political family you are a member, we have a shared interest in protecting our democracy. And while I think this is well intended, we really have to be careful before we create a new committee that is made up of partisan actors. And I would say that this government, the current government's best effort to try to bridge that gap was NCCOP, made up of parliamentarians charged with the mandate to look into these issues. So that's one thing I would say. Now, the other thing I would say is around the conduct of parliamentarians, because when we take our oath, we are swearing an allegiance to our constituents and to this country. And we operate from the presumption that members are discharging those responsibilities in good faith. My only point is, again, before we rush to judgment on our individual ability to uphold that oath, that we listen to the advice that we get from nonpartisan experts, and that we are methodical and that we are faithful to the due process requirements of the law and the charter before we leap to conclusions.
So one final question then. So if not PROC or the Senate analog, would it perhaps be the function of NCCOP to have a process such as this?
I think that NCCOP is the forum right now charged with the responsibility of looking into matters of national security and intelligence. This most recent report is, again, yet another reminder that we have to look carefully on how that mandate is being discharged when we look at the report and then we hear the reactions from CSIS and the National Security Intelligence Advisor, that those findings have gone further. And in fairness to NCCOP, and I do believe they were doing their level best to try to get to the core of the issue, it seems as though they were interpreting intelligence reports without having actually named any parliamentarians in the report itself. And so, not being a member of that committee, there's some guesswork that we're entertaining, but this is again another cautionary note that I'm sounding. That as they discharge their mandate, yes, we can and should review it, and there is, I believe, a periodic review of NCCOP's mandate, but ultimately, if a parliamentarian is compromised, if they are becoming a witting participant in aiding our adversaries, that we take that advice first from our nonpartisan officials with the expertise to evaluate the rapidly evolving nature of intelligence, and that where appropriate, if they are committing an act as serious as treason, that matter is handed over to law enforcement to adjudicate their culpability as a means of holding them accountable. Now, adjacent to that, Parliament also has mechanisms to hold the conduct of their members in place, but we should not put the buggy before the horse, and we should not allow this conversation to be transformed into a kangaroo court, and I am worried about that.
I have so many follow-up questions, but I'm out of time. So thank you, Mr. Mendocino. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.